Today, the CDC says, JK, COVID-19 does not spread easily through touching contaminated surfaces. Also, Senate Republicans issued the first subpoena in the Biden-Burisma probe. At the same time, some audio has leaked that we will show you of one of Biden's Ukraine phone calls and a push for mandatory vaccination from COVID-19. We've got a lot coming up, folks, and it starts right now. Welcome, one and all, to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by, I've got a lively bunch here at the table today. We've got Chad Prather, you were on my list.
I was?
I can't say. Yes, because I said on Monday, I was supposed to have Chad Prather here, but he bailed on me.
Sometimes I got to keep you on edge, girl. That's how we do with our women.
Is it?
Our women's.
Is it? Okay.
And everybody's going to comment and say, don't mess with Sarah.
No, we're BFFs. It's fine. Chad's my bestie. Also joined by Jason Buttrell, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, and Josh Hammer, BlazeTV contributor Josh Hammer. Thanks for being here.
Sarah, I'm just happy that Chad's back in the cowboy hat.
I know. It really messed with you, didn't it?
I didn't even recognize this guy with the baseball cap on.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
The world is normal again. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the news of the day. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has now updated its guidance on COVID-19. They are saying that the disease, quote, does not spread easily through touching contaminated surfaces. Now, they still say the virus spreads easily between people, person to person. But, if you're at a park, if you are touching the countertop, if you're touching a slide, if you're, wherever, it says that it does not spread easily through touching those surfaces, and may be possible. But basically, we're just making all of this up as we go along is really what I'm getting from it. Chad, what are your thoughts?
We're all dead.
Oh,
okay. I've had it up to here with the whole thing. It's just...
Seems weird to just shut down an entire economy based off of just a bunch of hunches.
A bunch of hunches, false models that have been predicted by people who have never been right about their models. Okay, so there's germs out there. Welcome to the planet, folks. This is the world we live in, okay? I've told you before, I've done enough stuff with people of loose morals. I'm not going to die from picking my nose. And that's just my take on the thing. And look, I said it on my show this week. If I get coronavirus next week and subsequently die from this, just know that I went to my grave still fully convinced of everything I've said about it. And the further we go into this, the more I believe that we are being sold a bill of goods. Is it real? Yeah. But is it what you say it is? No.
Yeah.
I can kind of see the reaction in the very beginning because of the unknowns of it. So then we were like, oh my gosh, the only data sets we had was kind of looking at what China was hiding.
You want to err on the side of caution.
Right. And we're like, oh my gosh, and then we were like, flatten the curve. Let's make sure hospitals don't get overwhelmed. Okay, right there. But every single time I see a new study come out, it's debunking their previous studies. Mm-hmm. There was a new study that Daniel Horowitz over Conservative Review just wrote about today, where he was writing about specifically another study that a doctor scientist just put out. It's in the process of being peer reviewed now. But he found, after all there's hard data on this now. It's not speculative. There's hard data. There's months of hard data. What he found was that the virus is actually 17 times less deadly than what the WHO is saying it is.
Just the 17 times.
17 times. That's not, I'm trying to figure, that's not an error in your data collection.
No.
There's something severely screwed up with that. And moving forward, there's places like Durham, North Carolina. They just re-upped indefinitely their draconian lockdown. Mm-hmm. Now, they've had 37 deaths. 33 of those have been elderly people within homes. So four other deaths outside of that. Now, obviously, you would think, okay, we need to protect that demographic in these areas.
Right.
But that's not what they're doing. Now, when the media reached out to them and said, hey, can you show us the data while you're justifying this? Because the vast majority of the people here are not sick. Mm-hmm. So what's going on? The city government or the county government refused to release that data. Oh. I'm sorry, but that is going to get you're going to find yourself in court, I believe, when all this is over, or at least they better.
Yeah, Josh.
So I lived in Durham, North Carolina for 4 years, and it just over the past 15, 20 years, that part of the state of North Carolina, it's been overrun with Midwesterners, Northeasterners retiring there. It's just gone way to the left. Durham has just it's totally lost its mind over there. So thanks for that anecdote. Kind of personal for me, honestly. Sarah, you mentioned at the beginning of this, though, kind of like going off a hunch. You know, look, I was a err on the side of caution guy when this whole thing started.
I remember.
I remember you were trying to pull me over to the dark side at a very early stage. I was resisting. Yeah. It seemed to me that at that point in time, when we don't know what's out there, let's not do an ideological response. Let's be prudent and rational, empirical. The point is, though, 2 months later, we have the empirical data at this point. We have enough of a sample size to prove that this was not what we thought it was. And here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, oh, was it the flu? Was it not the flu? I don't care. That analogy means nothing to me, because if you compare what we've done to this virus compared to the baseline as to how we normally respond to the seasonal influenza, it's here and here. It is night and day. Like we're not talking about like a small discrepancy. We don't really do it. We don't do anything for the flu. We get our flu shots. Okay, great. But
we send our children to school where they are way more likely to, die or get really, really deathly ill from the flu.
Right.
We don't shut down school every flu season.
Right, exactly right. We have enough of empirical data now. We're erring on the side of caution, what I was proposing 2 months ago. We just have enough of sample size where we know that's not the answer anymore. But, look, the lawyer in me, again, like you're talking about like hunch off hunch. I think back to the infamous, I'm going to nerd out just for a split second here. There's a constitutional law case, Griswold versus Connecticut, where they, in 1965, they found the so-called right to privacy for the first time. The court infamously found that, it's not actually in the text, they found it on the penumbras. Sorry, it was the penumbras emanating from the text. What does that mean? Okay, no one knows what that means.
No. So, I'm glad that wasn't just me.
I knew all about it. I was like, oh yeah.
But that is how we've responded to this virus. We have had we've had the hunches emanating from the hunches.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's got to end. It's nonsense.
Yeah. Chad, you looked like you were itching to say something when Jason was talking.
Well, yeah, you talk about 17 times. Let me put that in perspective. Let's say somebody comes in and says, I'm going to renovate your kitchen for $10,000, and then they get a bill for $170,000. Put that in perspective. That's a huge discrepancy, right? And these are the kind of things, because you're exactly right. They're building models off of non-models, things that don't exist. And Neil Ferguson, who started the models, he's been wrong every time. This is like one of those cult leaders that keeps predicting the end of the world, and then when it doesn't happen in August, he said, I meant October. But people keep following them. Why in the hell are we still following these people with these numbers that are, first of all, unfounded in the first place, and they've never been right in prior predictions?
Yeah.
I've only seen the virus be as bad as how they say it could be in like 3 places. One where it started in Wuhan, Italy, New York City.
Yeah.
Only 3 places, but they're using those 3 examples to govern everywhere, which makes no sense at all.
Especially if you look at, if we're just talking about the United States and you look at the demographics and the geography when it comes to New York City versus the entire, somewhere like Texas, the entire rest of the country. You're talking about people who live on top of each other, and you're talking about a governor who took misstep after misstep. We're now finding out more and more, especially when it comes to nursing homes. Yes. So it's difficult to see how they could have used that particular place as some sort of a form for the rest of the entire country, regardless of how they differed from one another. So we'll keep an eye on the updated guidance from the CDC. You never know when they're going to change something. I think the unfortunate part of all of this is that it seems to be with science as a whole. There are a lot of scientists, including, when it comes to climate change and what have you, that they're not willing to admit when they're wrong, right? Like, we've got these models that are wrong, and I talk about how wrong the models are, and all I hear back is like, the models weren't wrong. They were just a prediction. Well, but the prediction was wrong. Like, can we not just address the fact? I get it that you didn't have much to base it off of, but it's still wrong.
There's something going on here. Sober Mari has a great essay in the current issue of Commentary Magazine that he goes on length about this. There is a difference between lowercase s science and capital S science Inc. Okay, these people are subscribing to the cult of scientism. Okay, the notion that science is kind of like a be-all, end-all guide for how we morally, philosophically, day to day, even tangibly speaking, live our lives. And that's utter nonsense. Not only is it nonsense, it's actually counter to the actual definition of science. Science as a mode of discipline, as a mode of intellectual reasoning, is actually predicated upon skepticism. The history of science is a history of hypotheses kind of overriding previous hypotheses.
You're always finding
new data. Yeah. Like, most of Newtonian physics from the 17th century was largely kind of overridden by Einstein in the 20th century. That is science. So
saying science is settled is never really supposed to be a thing, right?
Saying science is settled is an oxymoron in terms.
Yeah.
Ever since I read the legal precedent of Prather versus Playboy / Maxim / Photoshop, I haven't believed in models at all. It's all bogus. It's all bogus.
Thank you for citing that very important case precedent.
Prather v. Playboy.
Was it? Okay, I'll be sure to look that up later on. Let's switch over to what's going on with Biden and Burisma, the probe that Senate Republicans are now uncovering. We've got just the guy to talk about it here at the table, Chief Researcher Jason Buttrell. So Senate Republicans just issued their first subpoena on today as part of these wide-ranging investigations into the Obama administration, into this Biden-Burisma thing. And they also, at the same time, they uncovered these leaked. Did you hear where these came from? Did you? Okay, are you allowed to say?
I've spoken to sources within Ukraine.
Okay, CNN. Anonymous sources tell me. Okay,
so
go ahead.
Protecting the source, because the source has actually got all the official transcripts of all these phone calls.
Love it.
So what he said was that, what they said was that they don't know how many people actually have these. But he did say that he knows the Russians have them, he knows the Ukrainian government has them, and our government has them as well. So this is not a shock to the people that knew about them. And he did also say that these are going to slowly start coming out more and more with more information as the rest of the summer goes on. So this is what you heard, what some people might have heard in these in some of these calls. Heavily edited, very selective, but there's a lot more information in there. It's absolutely insane. So the calls came from inside the president of Ukraine's office. So you can actually hear the White House operator, or actually say, "Mr. Vice President, now switching you over to the president of Ukraine." You know what I mean? This is nuts that this stuff is leaked out.
Yep.
But do you have any?
Yeah, we've got a couple different clips. So let's play. The first one is Joe Biden and Poroshenko, who is telling Biden that he fired Shokin despite no evidence of wrongdoing, which kind of goes to this entire hypothesis. Listen.
Yesterday, I meet with the General Prosecutor Shokin.
Yes.
And despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, no, it was the day before yesterday, I especially asked him to resign. As his position as a state person, and despite of the fact that he has a support in the parliament. And as a finish of my meeting with him, he promised me to give me the statement on resignation. And 1 hour ago, he bring me the written statement of his resignation.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
Jason, a lot to unpack there.
Okay, so it almost sounded like he was doing that on purpose. He was very deliberate in repeating himself.
Despite the fact that he did not do anything wrong, I asked him for his resignation anyway.
Okay, so this backs up Shokin's testimony that he's made in European courts and also out in the media in Ukraine, was that, look, I was investigating Burisma. That is the only reason I was targeted. Nobody ever, they keep telling me I'm corrupt. Bring some charges. Right. They never brought a single charge to him. There were certain stories that were reported on the media, rumors that were probably started by a bunch of Soros people within Ukraine. Look, I don't think anybody that in Ukraine, if you're in Ukraine and you're in the government and you're in business, you're probably corrupt on some level. That's the way it seems like. It seems like if you fly into Ukraine in the Kyiv airport, there's a line of corrupt politicians waiting to do a deal with you.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this Shokin was perfect, but there were no formal charges on the guy. You can see right here that they're saying the same thing. Like, we don't know why you don't like this guy. There's nothing that we have against him. But hey, because you coerced me, and you were threatening me with this, quid pro Joe, that's why we've done this. And it goes further into that. I think the very first call, there's John Kerry. And John Kerry on the first one is saying, hey, look, Joe's flying out there really quick. We got to figure out this thing with Shokin. So put that on your radar. I mean, it's very, if you listen, I would suggest that you listen to all of them because they're pretty amazing. But there's no question in my mind of the things that we've been talking about for the last few months are pretty much all true. And I'm telling you, and I will have some of these transcripts, mark my words, before they come out. We will have some of them. We will be releasing them before the rest of the media does. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
This is a planned release of information that's going to go all the way through the summer and probably into the fall. Wow.
I am so here for it. Oh my gosh, I'm so here for it. And gentlemen, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. And I think we might have one more clip, but let's do that after the break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Shippo. So I could sit here and I could give you this big long spiel about Shippo that sounds very formal and polished, but instead I'd like to ask Mr. Chad Prather, who uses Shippo regularly, because I don't know if you know this, but this guy's a hustler. Okay, this guy is like the OG hustler, and he ships out all kinds of merch. I don't even want to know some of the things he ships out, but Shippo ships them out very easily, very simply, right?
So, Allison, everybody knows Allison. Allison, my assistant, she called me one day and she said, we got this company here, Shippo, that they'll actually, they search for the best rates and they save, 90% of your shipping dollars are saved. They're going to search through like 55 different carriers and give you the best rates. And Party Foul Steve, everybody knows Party Foul Steve. Party Foul Steve can use this. That's how simple it is. Wow. And if you could see, sometimes on his Instagram, he'll just print out all the shipping labels and he wallpapers the thing. And you get free return labels. You don't get charged for the return postage unless the customer actually uses it. Shippo saved our business. Yeah. And that's no bull. They saved our business in a big way. Well, put a lot of money in my pocket.
That's all you need to hear right now. You can go to Shippo, goshippo.com/why. You can get your free shipping consultation and also a Shippo Pro Plan 6-month trial. That's for free, by the way. Okay, we got you the best deal anywhere out there. A 6-month trial for free of the Shippo Pro Plan. All you got to do is go to goshippo.com/WHY. Back in a minute. All right, back to Joe Biden and the leaked audio of some Ukraine phone calls. These are eyebrow-raising remarks, to say the least. This comes at the same time, as we said previously before the break, that the first subpoena was issued in this Biden-Burisma probe. Now, the subpoena asks for records from January 1st, 2013 to present from Blue Star Strategies related to work for or on behalf of Burisma Holdings or individuals associated with Burisma. And I do want, Jason, after we play this next clip and I get the other gentleman's thoughts on this, I do want to hear from you on why this Blue Star is important, why the subpoena is so important. But let's listen to the second clip of Biden and Poroshenko. I think Biden is talking about Shokin and a $1 billion loan. Listen.
Hey, Mr. President, Joe Biden. How are you?
Very well indeed. As usual, when I hear your voice. Thank you very much.
Well, you are doing very well. Congratulations on getting the new prosecutor general. I know there's a lot more that has to be done, but I really think that's good. And I understand you're working with the Rod in the coming days on a number of additional laws to secure the IMF. But congratulations on installing the new prosecutor general. It's going to be critical for him to work quickly to repair the damage Shokin did. And I'm a man of my word. And that now that the new prosecutor general's in place, we're ready to move forward in signing that new $1 billion loan guarantee.
He's a man of his word.
Well, there you go.
You heard it right from him, directly from him. Chad, what are your thoughts?
So that phone call happened May 13th, 2016. Did I see that date correctly?
Yes.
Okay, so at that point in time, Trump is president, right?
Not quite yet.
No, not yet.
Oh, that's right, because the election had not happened.
Right,
That's right. Okay,
right.
So that was 2017. So
Right.
I'm a year off. So forget my point. I was trying to do the math in my head. I was trying to do the math in my head. It kind of gets jumbled right there. But it's interesting that, well, first of all, Joe's come a long way since the days of Corn Pop. He's really keeping some heavy company these days. And imagine him having that conversation now with his mental state, right? There's no way he's going to put all that together, which one tells you how far he's devolved.
Yeah.
But think of what we would not know if Hillary Clinton was the president of the United States.
Golly.
I mean, this is cut and dried right here. You could see this. This is heavy evidence that's there. We've already known it was there. It was just a matter of uncovering it. So imagine what we wouldn't know. That's scary.
That is really scary, Josh.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. One is when Poroshenko says, like, I'm always happy when I hear your voice or whatever, that's like nail on chalkboard, cringe-worthy type stuff. And like, English probably not his first language, so like I'm going to cut him some slack, obviously, on that. But like, it's kind of just very jarring to hear that.
And that's his usual way to greet Biden. He does that like 3 or 4 times in almost all their conversations.
Okay. Weird. Well, that's really weird. That's really, really weird.
I wonder if Joe lets him rub the hairs on his leg.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I kind of wonder if like the Chris Matthews tingle up the spine going on there, right? But the other thing that kind of jumps out at me from that last phone call we heard was, towards the end of that phone call, like about releasing that $1 billion loan guarantee, sounds an awful lot like a quid pro quo to me.
Does.
The Democrats hated this whole quid pro quo with Ukraine thing. Kind of what we just heard, right?
Right. Well, and I mean, Jason, I want to toss it back to you to kind of sum this all up, but to Josh's point, I mean, we just went through an entire impeachment scandal over the president having a conversation about quid pro quo, which I think everyone at this table would agree that that's like not a insane thing to happen in politics. That's something that happens all the time. The difference was that what the president was asking for was a legitimate investigation into this crap. And now that we're hearing phone calls from this crap, sounds an awful lot like some shady doo-doo going on.
And I want to get to Jason because he knows a lot about this. President Trump, he's had access to this information long before this impeachment stuff went on. So there was a good reason for him to be asking about that.
Exactly. Good point.
So their defense on this, so our defense on the quid pro quo with President Trump was that he was actually looking into corruption.
Right, like you're allowed to do that as
and
president.
Their defense with Biden is pretty much exactly the same. He was attacking corruption. That's why he asked them to get rid of them. That's their defense. So what we don't know as far as what any of that had to do with Biden and Burisma. You asked me to talk about Blue Star strategies and the current subpoenas. That leads right into that.
But hold on, let me ask you a follow-up question from what you just said there. But I mean, you said that Joe Biden, I was just looking into corruption, I was just dealing with corruption, but you heard Poroshenko right there say no one had done anything wrong. I mean, he very clearly said that. Whether or not it was intentional for the audio, who knows, but he did very clearly say no one has done anything wrong. We're just canning him anyway. Oh, by the way, I just love to hear your voice.
Yeah. You can imagine, the hubris or the arrogance from Biden. He's and the Americans in general on this is they're saying, no, trust us. This guy's corrupt. We need him out of there.
Right.
And they're like, this is the prosecutor general that, just to put this into perspective, he was not the guy. So when they all talk about Burisma and all that, the corruption under Burisma started before Shokin. It started before it. In fact, Shokin was only on the job for a matter of months. So they're talking about all the stuff that, the damage he's mentioned in that thing that, he did while he was there. He'd only been there for a matter of months. Crazy. They got rid of his predecessor because he wouldn't look into Burisma. That's what's so stupid about this. They got rid of him. They got a guy, Shokin, who would look into Burisma. The moment he starts, Biden gets rid of him.
Wow.
Now, the problem is we have to find some kind of proof, some kind of evidence that, okay, this was all about Burisma and even specifically Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and how he was culpable and all this stuff.
Right.
Now, Blue Star Strategies might provide something with that. I actually do have a source within Blue Star Strategies.
Of course you do.
Who's talking about multiple documents that they have that they're already turned over to the Senate. I think the Senate already does have them, or I might have seen them. I don't know if that means they can use them in any way until he's actually subpoenaed. I don't know. I don't know. But that's where they're getting to now. So I know for a fact, and this is one of the things that actually just burned Ambassador Yovanovitch. Was that this week or last week, where she was caught lying to how much she actually knew about Burisma? That's coming from the things that are about to come out from these subpoenas. More heads are going to roll like that. It's going to be a lot more, but that's why we have to. That's why this is so important, because we have to identify that chain of guilt if it's there, and bringing in people like Blue Star Strategies is what that's all about. We have to show that it had more to do with just looking for corruption. It was a lot more dirtier, possibly. It had to do with Joe Biden's son working with this group and legitimizing them, and who knows, laundered money and a bunch of other stuff that might come out. Hint, hint.
Wow. Ooh, Jason.
What a tease.
Dropping little tidbits all across. Well, the good news, Chad, is that Joe Biden can use as a defense and be completely honest that he doesn't remember anything happening. So
that's a very good point.
Yes, the glories of dementia.
Who could tell him he was wrong? You take one look at any of his interviews, you're like, well, it's probably true. He doesn't remember anything.
Almost like Ronald Reagan in the Iran-Contra affair. I don't remember. And you know what? Ronnie didn't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sad situation we make light of, but there's a large element of truth there.
Yeah. All right. We've got more coming up, including a push for a mandatory vaccination against COVID-19. I have a feeling you guys out there might have some thoughts on that. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. So Patriot Mobile right now, they know that there are a lot of Americans hurting, and they're going above and beyond to help you stay in touch with your loved ones. During this time, they're lowering their prices even further, and they were already super duper affordable. Right now, they are giving you customized family plans starting at only $25. Yeah. That low. Another great thing about Patriot Mobile is that they share your values. And so they're not like Big Mobile where you pay part of your bill and then they take all of that money that you're paying and donate to Planned Parenthood or places that want to take your guns away. Patriot Mobile shares your values. They're like you, and they actually donate to causes that you believe in. So you know that a portion of your bill is actually going to support the Constitution and put people before profits. Now, it's 2020. Switching is very easy. You can keep your number. You can bring over your phone that you have, or you can buy a new one if you want. Right now, they will waive your activation plus send you a free gift. Ooh, what could it be? You got to find out. If you go to patriotmobile.com/news, get that customized family plan today, starting at just $25. That is patriotmobile.com/news. Use offer code NEWS for that free gift and activation. patriotmobile.com/news. Yeah. Alan Dershowitz is making, I guess, raising eyebrows with the statement that he made about the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, this is kind of a debate that's gone back and forth on, they're rushing to get this vaccine done. Who knows when it's going to be done? Many people want to fast track it because, screw the science and the numbers that say that it's very unlikely that you're going to die from this. It sounds really scary, so we all want to be vaccinated for it. Here are the remarks that Alan Dershowitz made, saying that the state has the right to forcibly vaccinate its citizens. Listen.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you? No right not to be vaccinated, meaning if they decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
If the vaccination is designed to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get, for example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against a contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution, gives the state the power to compel that, and there are cases in the United States that bring forth.
I know Jason's raising his hand. He wants to talk, but Josh, I want to go to you first as the attorney. I'm sorry, as the attorney.
That's messed up.
As the attorney. Why?
Because he's basically standing on his chair over here.
Well, I know, but I want to hear from the attorney because
I'm happy to defer to Jason in this particular case.
Why did you go to?
Go ahead. No. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, he gets to hold the stick.
Josh will get. I got the highlighter. Josh will have the actual legal breakdown on this. I'm just curious about Dershowitz because this does not sound very Dershowitz-y.
It doesn't, right?
At all. So I'm wondering if he's doing this in his clever Dershowitz way and kind of playing devil's advocate so everyone kind of knows how ridiculous state power on this really is.
You think?
I hope so. Yeah. Because this does not sound, and I know what he's probably referencing, which is, police powers, within states, which we're starting to see now that it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think Josh will set me straight on this, but I think he's actually citing actual Supreme Court case law. I think from around the turn of the century for smallpox, this actually happened. I think someone was actually prosecuted, convicted of not taking a smallpox vaccine, I believe, and the Supreme Court upheld that. But I refuse to believe that he actually thinks this is a good idea or a good deal. It's being reported as such. I hope within myself that he's saying, look, this is how ridiculous it's gotten. Yes, this is bad. This is why we need to hold states' feet to the fire, some of these governors, when all this is done. Because yes, the state does have the power to do this, but there are checks and balances within it. We just have to make sure that those checks and balances are upheld. Here's your highlighter, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend.
I like the optimism.
I hope those surfaces are clean.
I'll hand sanitize, don't worry, Chad. So look, I hate to ruffle feathers, but Alan Dershowitz is correct. Okay, as like a matter of our constitutional structure, like he's emphatically correct here. And the case that he's referencing is a case called Jacobson versus Massachusetts, a 1905 case. But let's take it a step back a notch, okay?
Who memorizes that? I'm sorry.
Josh Hammer does, which is why he's so valuable here.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm a law nerd at heart. I still am. So federalism is pretty simple, okay? The federal government has enumerated powers. When Madison says in Federalist 45 that the powers left to the states are, quote, numerous and indefinite. And it was always understood that what Jason's calling the state police powers are health, safety, and public morals. Those are traditionally the three, that's like the three-legged stool of the state police powers. So the ability to vaccinate against infectious disease has pretty much always been understood as being within the state's police powers to regulate that. Whether that is always a morally correct action for public officials to take is an entirely different inquiry. Justice Antonin Scalia used to joke that he had a stamp in his chambers at the Supreme Court where he would stamp an opinion and say, stupid but constitutional. And because if your constitutional jurisprudence is always that your law and your policies are always perfectly aligned, you're probably not doing law correctly.
Right.
Alan Dershowitz is correct as a constitutional matter. Whether you have like a natural law obligation to defy that at a certain point is kind of a different discussion.
Chad, what do you think?
I'll quote the Second Amendment and defer to my right to plunge my foot up Alan Dershowitz's ass. You're not sticking anything into me unless it's by force, and that is the truth.
Yeah.
And I say that facetiously, but I also mean it. You thought the Boston Tea Party was bad. Wait till we spill blood in Boston Harbor. This is serious stuff, folks, because, and I'm going to tell you why. They don't have the numbers to back it up. Smallpox is one thing, okay? There were numbers to back, there was evidence to back it up. They do not have the evidence that they are spouting off, especially for something with a 99% recovery rate. We know who it affects, and to try to put this out on the general population is just absolutely scientifically and medically biased, 100%. I don't know why Dershowitz is in on this thing, but I don't know why Bill Gates is in on this thing either. I don't know why Jeff Bezos is in on this thing, but they're all in on this thing. Google, Amazon, all of them. Again, whoever creates the panic sells the pill, and these guys are selling the pills. It's all out there. There's so many things I could say in that regard. And it's not a conspiracy theory. I can back it up with facts, which we do tomorrow night on the Chad Prather Show.
Oh, there you go.
I'm so torn on how to even address all of this when this is over. I can't remember who I was reading. It might have been Daniel Horowitz again, who was talking about how when this is all over, states need to get together, legislators, specifically state legislators, and add in a little more, oversight into this. It can't just be one overbearing governor that can act like a King George of his little fiefdom state. Yeah. And it's like, look, I'm doing this, and I'm taking away all your rights. Yes, they can, at the moment, they can suspend the Bill of Rights for people. They can just do it. Now, there's also the 9th Amendment, which, kind of covers us from some of these things. Like, hey, we know that, a tyrant will come in eventually and try to suspend some of the rights that we just didn't think about. like the right to just go in and get your hair did, you know, if you want, which has been suspended for many of us and for several states still is. But come on, that's covered under the 9th Amendment. So I should be able to go and get my hair did if I had any hair and if I wanted to.
If and if.
I haven't had my wig on in weeks.
Well, all interesting points. As for me, I think where there is risk, which all medications, if you're injecting something into your body, there are always risks. Where there is risk, there always has to be choice in the matter, but that's just me. What do I know? We've got more coming up. First, we want to thank our sponsor of the segment, Omega XL. So Omega XL is a natural supplement that is designed to reduce joint pain and inflammation. Now, a lot of you, if you are living in pain, you might not know that your pain is actually stemming from, maybe you've got back pain, neck pain, leg pain, if you have arthritis, that's stemming from inflammation in your joints and in your muscles. Now, inflammation can cause permanent damage if you don't treat it, and you could mask it with pain relievers and topical creams, but those aren't really treating the problem at the root of it. Omega XL does. It goes right to the inflammation. It is powerful. It is also natural, which is awesome if you're a hippie like me and you like the natural supplements, and it promotes healthy joints and increased mobility. There truly is nothing like it in the world. Now you can take Omega XL right now. Get a really special offer if you go to omegaxl.com/news. If you order now, you will get a second bottle for free, absolutely for free. All you got to do is go to omegaxl.com/news. That is omegaxl.com/news.
Hey, before you say anything, I want to go back to that. I want to go back to that thing because I know we got other stuff to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, Hitler
highlighter
wrote a book called Mein Kampf.
Yes.
And what they did. Hitler's idea was if you tell a lie big enough and often enough, that people will believe it as the truth, right? And one of the things that they sold the public on in Germany was that there was a virus and the Jews carried it. And so they had to send them to quarantine camps, which is what they call them. I mean, that's just a little history lesson. And now you have California, which we were talking about during the break. California is now passing legislation where they can come and take your children away if you test positive for coronavirus, and they can keep your family separated until you test negative in that regard. So if you think we're real far off, history tells some tales in that regard. And I'm telling you, this whole forced vaccine stuff and all that is a hill I will die on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I only speak for myself, but I think there are a lot of people out there who believe in the science of vaccination who still will say, you know what, that's enough. That's a bridge too far.
I'll get the vaccine, but you're not going to tell me to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Right.
Big difference there.
Right. All right. I do want to bring up, so Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan is apparently in talks to become to become Joe Biden's vice presidential pick, according to the New York Post. She said that she has had a conversation with some folks. Now, it was just an opening conversation. It wasn't formalized vetting, but she's been talking to people. Jason, how perfect would that be?
Oh my gosh, there's just so many ways they could ride this to a very, very close, election, but they're completely destroying it. I mean,
they're just doubling down on what got President Trump elected, I feel like, in 2016.
She is, I think, in the crosshairs. Her own people seem to be turning against her right now. Why not name her VP? I mean, it makes no sense at all. But I guess when your only choices were, a woman that lost in her last election, had no other, and hasn't really won anything.
Woman. He's already said it's going to be a woman, right?
Right, exactly.
So he's got to pick a woman.
That's how limited you are in this.
Yeah.
When it comes down to, you're not just based off the content of their character and what they bring to the table. When it's based off of whatever identity bracket you fit into, you get the governor of Michigan, I guess.
I feel like the immoral here, Josh, is that Democrat female politicians really suck.
I mean, surely there's got to be one or two good ones out there, right? I mean, I don't want my girlfriend to watch this and say, "Oh, he's a sexist" or whatever. they've got to exist.
All right, fine. I'll be the sexist.
Let me do that for you. No, but all kidding aside here, as I tweeted last night, I mean, they can't actually be this stupid, can they? And yet the obvious answer is that yes, they can, because as our dear friend Jesse Kelly always tweets, seems like almost every day. Jesse's a dear friend, Chad. We're getting there, but Jesse's already there. I'm sorry, my man. We are getting there though. But as Jesse always says, he says, all the Democrats have to do is not be crazy, and they can't do it. They are incapable of doing it. You know, I got a bit of I got a weird random hate mail last night. Actually, an email from an email account that was quote unquote. Literally, the name of the email address was globalisthack2020@gmail.com. Who emailed me last night after I was bashing this Whitmer thing on Twitter, and he or she was was apparently saying that Whitmer is polling high in Michigan. And my response to that is, I don't give a darn about the polls. The polls were all wrong in 2016. What I believe is my own two eyes, and this is a total tyrannical nut job of a human being right now, and they would be suicidal to put her on the ticket. So I hope they do it, obviously.
Chad.
She doesn't look black to me. I mean, that's what Joe Biden said. He's going to pick a woman of color, a person of color. But I did
She
call
could
this.
identify as black.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But she's a little despot. I mean, she's a tyrannical dictator. She won't even let you go to your cabin at the lake. You can't. I mean, she's locked down the state. People in Michigan, they're miserable. And I called it several weeks ago. I said Whitmer's going to be up there for the deal, along with, Stacey Abrams, and who's fat, who's morbidly obese, and. Did you see that superhero pose? She looks like you talk about climate change. She's blocking the sun. She looks like her kryptonite is salad. So I told you I could be sexist, I can fat shame, I can do it all because it's all legal now.
You're allowed to.
We're all allowed to now.
Nancy Pelosi made it very clear that fat shaming is no longer a thing.
I've always done that because as a fat guy with a greater BMI than 30, these are my people.
All right. Well, I think it's about time to take a break here at the table. We'll be right back.
Trump is fat. You got a bulbous ass.
Yesterday's poll, what is Joe Biden's biggest strength? I know there are not a lot to choose from. So you guys picked the media covers for him. 63% of you said the media covers for him. I think that was the obvious choice. But some of you just wanted to troll, so you said corn pop.
Yeah, it's a dumb poll.
Corn. When corn pop is an answer, is an option on the poll, you gotta
Who puts
maybe.
this poll together? Pat Gray? I mean, what is going on here, Jeffy?
Social media.
Okay.
Social media. Love you, social media. All right. And then Obama's endorsement, 6%. His mental acuity, only 5%. 5%, though. Those are high numbers for Joe to say his mental acuity is his biggest strength. 5% said mental acuity. That's got to be huge. That's got to be like the most people who think that he still has his wits about him. Today's poll, if President Trump called Stacey Abrams morbidly obese, like Pelosi called him, would the media have the same reaction of shrugging it off?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I know what your answers are going to be, but I did find it interesting. There were a lot of people. I did tweet that Stacey Abrams is morbidly obese, and I had a lot of people who said, well, what's wrong with using that's a clinical term. Like, okay, well, Nancy Pelosi's not a doctor, and also, so what you're telling me is I can call people fat as long as I use the clinical term? There's no way that's not acceptable to them.
Nancy Pelosi, I mean, somewhere out there she's butt-chugging vodka right now. So, I mean, why do we listen to anything she has to say, first off? But second of all, that tweet you put out, I mean, those are presidential numbers on that thing. The last I saw was 102,000 reactions to the tweet, which tells me, America, you're on our side. You're with us. You agree. I can't pick her up.
I just would like to point out the hypocrisy of it all.
Exactly.
Right?
That's my point.
You can't say you're not allowed to fat shame. Fat shaming is a thing. You can't point out science or facts. And then also, oh, by the way, I'm not a doctor, but President Trump is morbidly obese. That's not the way it works, people. All right, thanks, guys, for being here.
Big butt.
You said bulbous.
Bulbous ass.
Bulbous. I love that word, bulbous.